Hello, and welcome back to Past and Future. Today we're going to take a look at some of the British ships and guns used during the Age of Sail. After my visit to the Hartlepool Naval Museum, and in particular the HMS Tryconnell, I thought it would be interesting to do a video on the different types of British ships. The British naval rating system consists of first rate, second rate, third rate, fourth rate, fifth rate and sixth rate ships. There is also another category, which are the unrated ships, which we'll take a look at first. This class included sloops, gunboats, brigs and cutters, and these were often commanded by lieutenants instead of captains. Sloops were armed with between 10 and 18 guns and used like frigates, whereas gunboats and brigs were often used as coastal patrol vessels. Finally, cutters were used as scout and messenger ships. These were the smallest ships in the fleet, only weighing in at a maximum of 550 tons, which was why they were commanded by lieutenants instead of captains. Now let's move on to the next rating, the sixth rate ships. These are light frigates armed with between 22 and 28 guns. The sixth rate ships had a crew of around 150 and were used to perform duties such as scouting for the fleet and harassing enemy shipping. Here's a good example of one such ship. Note how it has 3 masts. HMS Tryconnell, as seen here, is an interesting one though. Although originally designed to carry 38 guns in 1815, when it first went on its voyage in 1845, it was instead armed with 26 higher caliber guns. Fifth rates are more normal frigates armed with between 32 and 40 guns and had a crew of up to 300. Used like light frigates for scouting and quick hit and run attacks. Becoming a captain of one of these was seen as a very glamorous posting back in the day. Some common features of frigates was that they only had one gun deck and they were always 3-masted, unlike the smaller brigs. Here's an earlier frigate from around the 17th to 18th century, and here's a later frigate from the 19th century. Now let us move on to the fourth rate ships, the first real ships of the line. These housed 50 to 60 guns and had a 350 man crew. In the 18th century, the Admiralty decided that a ship with 50 to 60 guns was no longer fit for line warfare, and so instead they were moved to the roles of convoy protection, coastal defence and even as transportation. These were the first ships to have 2 gun decks. Now let's move on to the third rates. These are the most common ships of the line with 60 to 80 guns and a 650 man crew. They were effective as they were both cheap and well armed, and they were also very easy to handle as they weren't too big. By this class, these ships were already weighing at over 1,000 tons. Second rates had 90 to 98 guns and an impressive 3 gun decks. They had notoriously bad handling, but were cheaper than first rates, and so were often used as overseas flagships. In this plan, you get a good sense of the scale and power of these ships, and in this image, you can see just how ornate the carvings and woodwork which went into making one of these ships is. First rates are the biggest ships, which housed 100 heavy guns and a crew of 850. These were used as flagships as they were the biggest and most expensive ships in a fleet. This is an example of an older first rate for around the 1850s, and this one is the infamous HMS Victory, Nelson's flagship, where he died at the Battle of Trafalgar. I definitely recommend a visit there to the Portsmouth dockyards. But these ships were built for war, so let's take a look at some of the guns they were armed with. The 8-pounder cannon was a light and effective cannon, used for chasing attacks where the main goal was to demarc the opponent before boarding them. They were used on everything from a brig up to a frigate. The 12-pounder was the main armament aboard frigates, but also accompanied other ships and weighed in at an immense 1,745 kilograms, including its mounting. The 18-pounder was bigger and heavier than the 12-pounder, which is why it only saw use on late frigates and even some late first-rate ships. It was mostly used by the French. Here you can see some French gunners using it. The 24-pounder was the biggest mass-produced cannon that the British used, and was used on almost all ships of the line. It was a favourite among coastal defence forces as it was quite heavy, and here you can see it mounted on a large wooden base facing out to sea. What a terrifying sight that must have been. Thank you as ever for watching this short video on British ships and guns during the Age of Sail. Now don't forget to like and subscribe, and until next time, bye bye.